The Positive Pause is a motivational-minded podcast covering topics women want to know about as they journey to and through menopause, focusing on subjects that impact women's health and healthy aging, including what it means to age healthfully. The Positive Pause features experts and influencers from a variety of industries and specialties. The information and opinions expressed on the Positive Pause are not intended to replace the services of trained professionals or to provide specific medical advice. To see the National Menopause Foundation's full medical disclaimer, please visit nationalmenopausefoundation.org.
Welcome to the Positive Pause. I'm Claire Gill, founder of the National Menopause Foundation. Joining me for this episode is Cara-Michele Nether, a licensed health practitioner and founder of Strength and Vitality Wellness. Cara-Michele specializes in reducing guilt and sporadic stabs at self-care while delivering reliable, energy-building routines that become a natural part of the day for women between the ages of 45 and 65. She has been recognized as the best-rated acupuncturist in Baltimore for 5 consecutive years and holds certifications in both whole food nutrition and personal training. She also has authored the book, Fuel Your Engines. Growing up, Cara-Michele observed the mental and physical damage her mother and other women caused themselves by skipping self-care and prioritizing everyone else's needs above their own. As a young woman, this made her both sad and a little angry. But later in life, she found herself in that same trap. Even as a seasoned healthcare practitioner, she was diagnosed with an unavoidable health concern at age 52. She is deeply committed to empowering women to control their own stories. She wants to highlight 2 facts. 1, making friends with self-care consistency is more straightforward than you might think. And 2, feeling good is the easiest way to do good. Well, that sounds terrific. From pain relief to practical energy-producing strategies that fit the busiest of schedules, Cara-Michele's slow, intentional approach allows women to experience the full potential of having their minds and their bodies behind them. Her philosophy teaches us that after eliminating the burden of complication, guilt, and self-judgment around self-care, women can feel good in their bodies and be back in the driver's seats of their lives. This shift gives us the control we need over our mental and physical energy, allowing women to positively impact the relationships they cherish without regrets. Thank you so much and welcome to the Positive Paw, Cara-Michele.
Thank you, Claire. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm excited to talk with you today.
I'm so excited. This is such an important topic because it truly is one thing that I think women tend to struggle with is that we deserve and need self-care. So Let's talk a little bit about why you believe we're in a self-care crisis among women over the age of 45.
Well, that's such a great way to put it. I'm going to steal that, if you don't mind, a self-care crisis. I love it. I've been working with women between the ages of 45 and 65 for almost 20 years now. I have an in-person practice as well as offer services for folks all over the country. And it's just amazing to hear the same stories over and over again, how women aren't sleeping well. They know they need to do better with their diet. They're feeling uncomfortable in their bodies. They're finding themselves being a little frustrated and angry sometimes, and then speaking and acting in ways that they don't feel comfortable with or they're not excited about. Mm-hmm. They're actually a little regretful of those times right before you fall asleep when your mind's running and all the day's kind of playing in the background,
Right.
Yeah, like nobody wants to live like that, number one. And I just want to help women understand that it's not necessary. I think that self-care industry has gotten super complicated and everybody's running around trying to do the best they can. And you grab a little bit here and you grab a little bit there. And it's really hard to put it together into a routine that actually works for you.
That's so true. Yes. And that is it. I think we tend to overcomplicate it and we'll get to this further in our conversation, just the guilt we have when you actually do take time to prioritize your own wellness. So let's talk about what you think some of those first steps women can take especially at this age group, if we're thinking about trying to prioritize our own well-being, if we're trying to start being a little bit better about self-care, what are the couple things you think are a good way for women to start?
Yeah, absolutely. A great question. Self-care I think, should be looked at like anything else that we're trying to start in our life, like understanding why this is important for me. Look, we're all crazy busy. I don't have a client who's not doing the octopus thing, with a thousand arms moving
Yeah.
at one time, right?
Yeah.
So that's the tough part. And we're juggling so many things. And I love this age group. If I could back up just one second, I love this age group because supporting this age group is because lots of women have children, lots of women have a career, but it's not really until we get to our late 40s and 50s that our own parents and relatives start to need more support, right?
Right.
And so, this group has a ton on their plate. And so why should I take time to try to figure this water out or figure out my sleep or figure out my exercise? Is it really going to do something for me? And I think the first piece is to understand the life that we're really trying to create for ourselves. I don't know about you, but I'm 55. The life that I want to lead now, what's important to me now is totally different than 20, 30 years ago.
That's right.
And because we have so many things going on, it's tough to slow down and really give this proper consideration.
So finding that why, that makes perfect sense. And like you said, that's very true on so many of the things, the good habits that we need to put in place. Finding that why is really important. So, okay, so say the woman says, right, I know why I need this, whether it's work or extra family responsibilities or just maybe a health condition that has sprung up that they now need to address. After they've identified the why, what should they look to do next?
Yeah, absolutely. The next piece is to choose to create a system of generating the mental and physical energy that they can actually accomplish, that they can actually integrate into their life. In other words, we really want to make this crazy hard to fail. We want it to be super easy.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the pieces. So I'm going to blend these first two pieces together. So it's one thing to say that I really want to, I got big meetings coming up, or I have this health thing coming up and all of that kind of stuff. Because, what we'll do as busy women, and we will just make it happen. We will push through. We will just burn the candle at both ends, do whatever that we have to do to make sure that thing is taken care of. But what we don't need to do, I want to suggest, we don't have to suffer while we're taking care of the people and the projects that are important to us.
That makes sense.
We think about it quite like that, but I'm going to use the word self-harm. I think there's a lot of self-harm that we do to ourselves because in the end, if we're not sleeping well for days and weeks at a time, that's harmful to our system, to our mind and our body.
So true.
So sometimes people aren't sure what I mean when I say that phrase self-harm, but I do think that we're harming ourselves. And so that's the objective here. How do we get a good rhythm with the health and wellness practices or the routines that we all know? Claire, we all know exactly what it is we need to do for ourselves. If I was to stop a handful of women on the side of the street, on a busy corner and say, what are the top 5 or 6 things that you need to do for each day? Everybody would say, I need to drink more water. I need to exercise more. I need to get better sleep. I need to do, like, everybody knows.
That's right. We know it's
right?
that, but we don't know, we don't do it. Right? I say that all the time, Cara-Michele, on this podcast, where I'm so fortunate to have access to you and all these other great experts that we speak with on a monthly basis on this podcast. And yet I struggle to actually put it into practice. And I think that's so true, that's the kind of thing that most women face. It's not like we're clueless, about what we need to do. It's just we're not doing it. And that's a real problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my mission. My mission is to help women figure this out. Because look, at 50, I started to think, oh, like half my life is over, right? And now I'm starting to have some aches and pains and things that show up and health issues that show up, like we don't have for forever. And at some point, I'm going to be 70, 80, or 90 years old. And whatever life I want to have then, I need to figure that out now.
Right.
Right? So I want to help women to actually feel good now, not struggle and not suffer with all the things that they're just going to take care of. It's not a question of whether we're going to take care of our kids or our parents and all of those folks. If we're going to push that new project forward, we're going to get that done. But can we do it in a way that we don't have to do harm and damage to ourselves and sets us up for good life and functional movement and all of that as we get older,
right.
For sure. So understanding, number one, why this is super important. Why do I need to figure this out for myself, the person I want to be right now, the people in my lives that I want to show up my best for? That's that kind of understanding the why. But then how do we just make it super simple? One of the things that women often do is they just grab too much at one time.
Mm-hmm.
They pick the most complicated system and they start running with that, and they haven't made room or space for it in their lives. And then we wonder, then the negative self-talk starts. We start to wonder, why me? Why can't I figure this out? Why is this not working for me? Right. And again, that negative self-talk makes it really tricky to feel good about who we are, what it is we're doing. And it makes it crazy hard to start again.
Right. So you're saying then after we identify the why, and like I said, we know what we need to do, the how should be finding the simplest thing we can start with that, like you said, that
That's
we
right.
know we can absolutely do and start with that.
That's right.
Okay.
See, what we want to do, Claire, in the end is create habits out of these basics of health and wellness that we all know. And those things, when it comes to foundational things, those are things that can't be outsourced.
Right.
Right? You can't get somebody else. It's not like you can get somebody to drink water for you. Like you can get someone to clean the house for you. We have to do this ourselves.
Right.
So why not start small? Most of the women I work with are professional women, and they're running companies and they're running businesses and they're running whatever. They're running it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're used to having some big project dumped on our desk and we figure out all the pieces and make it work for everybody. But for us, because we're doing all of that other stuff, when it comes to how we take care of ourselves, it needs to be smaller. It needs to be more practical.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
Because we're only going to dedicate so much time.
We only have so much time, right?
That's right.
True, right? If you're doing all the stuff that we prioritize, whether that, again, like you said, between work and aging parents or children or whatever those other things are, then there's only so many hours in the day. I mean, I think we all wish that there were more hours in the day, but I hear you that if we don't prioritize our own care during the realistic hours of the day we have, we're not going to be around to manage all these other things that are going on in our lives and to support all the people we feel like we need to support in our lives. So it does make sense to sort of start with something really simple, start doing it, make it a habit. And then hopefully I would imagine then that would lead to being able to do some of the more complicated things that we need to do for ourselves.
Yeah. And the truth of the matter is I don't think it ever needs to get complicated.
No.
I think that if we are able to create a routine. So may I give you a practical example of what I mean by making it easy and keeping it basic? Yeah. So let's say, I run what's called the Strength and Vitality Accelerator. And the purpose of this group of women is they come together to learn these basics. How do I get clear on the small steps that I'm going to take each day that add up to momentum, that then leads to habits that I don't have to think about very much. So this is how we put it together. Let's say water. Like, we are made of trillions and trillions of cells. That's what our whole body is. That's what our brain is, our eyeballs, eyelashes. They're nothing but cells, right?
Yeah.
And those cells are supposed to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 75% water. That's always crazy when I think of that.
I know.
I hear that, right? 75% water. So if we want our brain to operate smoothly and clear, be able to pull up facts and figures and remember things, if we want our knees to work, if we don't want to have back issues and all of that kind of stuff, we have to be well hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we go about this? The first step that I would suggest is understand, take a survey, look at yourself, see how much water you're typically drinking in a day. Let's just say, and it really doesn't matter where your start is, because that's the other thing we do is we shame ourselves because I'm not drinking as much as everybody else, right?
Right.
So, yeah, we'll let go of that. But we'll just understand where we are. Let's say you're drinking 40 ounces of water pretty consistently. So what I would do is do that for 7 days or 10 days and just get comfortable, figure out what I call the mechanics. You see, there are certain things that we each need to have in place in order to be able to get that water into our system. Thinking about it, knowing that we need to drink water is never enough. So for me, I like having the water out front. I got my water bottle sitting here with me, right? So having my water bottle is a mechanic that I need to put in place every day. And you see, we have to figure out, how do we do that first? Before we are able to drink the whatever amount of water there you go, you've got your water. How much water we need every day. You see that we have to get those mechanics in place first. Do I need my water sitting out in front of me? Do I like really room temperature water? Do I want cold water?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to have it in a special kind of bottle? I like to drink with a straw. Do I like to drink it out of like whatever the pieces are? Those mechanics, we have to figure those out first, and then we have to practice getting those in play, and then we'll be able to drink the water.
That makes sense. It's so funny, just even talking about the water and saying water, as you said, made me grab my water and start drinking. I always think that it's things that are top of mind. I joke with people, all you have to do is say the word posture and everyone sits up.
Absolutely.
It is like that kind of stuff. So if we're talking about water, I hope everybody listening is kind of grabbing their water too and saying, oh, right, I got to remember to do that. But I love the idea, Cara-Michele, of breaking it down into the mechanics of the small stuff. Like you said, just thinking through, like we would any kind of project. If we were prepping for anything in our lives, we would sort of put the plan together, right? I'm going to get this ready by this time of day. I'm going to have this set up. I'm going to do that kind of stuff. And so we can do that with these self-care things. Like, I'm going to make sure I get hydrated during the day and put all of those little mechanics in place so you have the ability to make that easy. That makes total sense.
That's right.
I assume we do that the same thing again for all those other things we need to do, like our sleep situation, our sleep routine.
Here's another quick example.
Yeah.
Let's go with sleep. You made mention of sleep. So in order to get good sleep, most human beings need to have the room be quiet, cool, and Chucks, what's the third one? Well, let's go with the quiet and cool. The other one will pop to me in a second.
That's fine.
So what are the mechanics? What are the pieces that we need to have in place? What kind of blanket do you need to have? I love having a little bit of weight on me when I'm sleeping.
Interesting.
How about you? Do you like that, having a little bit?
I'm the exact opposite. I know that whole weighted blanket trend, and my husband, God bless him, bought me one a couple of Christmas ago, and I don't like the weight. But but it's very, like you said, many, many women do. So it's finding what works for you.
That's right. We have to be conscious of it, right? So for you say, nope, a sheet's good enough. Great. How do we make the room cool? Right?
Yep.
How do we, am I dropping the temperature in the whole house? Am I putting a window unit in? Am I kind of turning on a fan? How do we figure this out?
Right.
Dark is the other piece that I was thinking about. The third thing, do I need blackout windows? Do I work a shift work that the lights outside, the sun's out, are there windows, I mean, in this side of the room, then where the catching the street lights and we have to figure these pieces out. Those are the mechanics. Then we can start to practice actually getting more sleep.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And again, it's those things that people have told us. I mean, we all read the articles about, oh, you need to make sure that, it's cool, get enough sleep, stop your tablet use or your, looking at your iPhone an hour before bed, get that routine together. But breaking it down into those little pieces of, right, do I have everything I need to make the room optimal for me to get the sleep that I need and being able to move forward on it? The other thing I was thinking as you were talking about that, Cara-Michele, too, was the idea of the things that we can control. I feel like, oh my God, there's no way we can control how, if there's going to be some crazy thing that happens at work and we're going to have to deal with that crisis or whatever. But all of these little step-by-step mechanics, as you call them, are things that we absolutely can control. And that sense of control can be a real relief when so many other things are out of our control.
I am so happy that you made mention of that, because that's the truth. Like, there's a lot of things that we just have to go with the flow, right? But if you're not sleeping well, if you're not exercising well regularly, if you're dehydrated, if your digestive system is out of whack, it makes it harder to go with the flow on the things that we can't control.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it impacts all of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the piece that I just really want women in this age group to really get and understand.
Yeah.
We have more control over how we feel, how we experience our lives than we want to give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take all day, right? In the Strength and Vitality Accelerator, we're trying to help women dedicate 30 minutes to themselves in the morning and maybe a 5 or 10 minute review of how the day went in the evening. That's all that's required.
That is, again, that's something that we can all carve out. Right. We're not talking about, I mean, it would be great to have like an all day spa day, but that's not necessary. There's really more benefit probably from these 30, 35 minutes a day of just focusing on how we're doing and are we taking care of ourselves a little bit within this whole thing. So these are all then, I'm guessing, Cara-Michele, what you're talking about are those energy building routines that you work on with your clients, right?
Yeah. And that brings me to this third piece. Because we're limited on time, because there's only so much energy that we have to spend towards ourselves because we have everyone else who needs us, it's important to focus our time and energy on the practices that literally build mental and physical energy.
Yeah.
I always tell folks, I laugh and I say, there was this big L.Ac berry craze, a handful of years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
The L.Ac bowls and the berries and the this and where they come from and all this crap. Look, they're tasty and they are full of nutrition. But guess what, Claire? They will not change your life.
Right.
Right? The L.Ac berry is not going to change your life. But you know what? Being fully hydrated will change your life.
That's so true. That's so true. But again, it's those kinds of things where there's always that new something, a new pill or a new diet or a new whatever that's going to solve everybody's issues. And as you said, it's really the basics: hydration, sleep, exercise, nutrition, good nutrition. Those are the things, no matter what we do to try to get around them, those are the things we have to do. And again, I love your advice for sort of breaking those simple things down into simple steps so that they become super important and routine. So let's be, again, I could talk about this forever. It's it's always amazing getting together with people who are talking about ways we can make these things practical, and I love it. In your book, Fuel Your Engines, what are the key takeaways you hope your readers will grasp?
I wrote this book because I really wanted to make getting good nutrition in as a self-care technique, make it a lot simpler for busy working women. There's a lot of information out there. There are a lot of different cookbooks. There's a lot of people, a lot of videos. But what I've learned, and I continue to learn, is that many women really haven't had a lot of experience in the kitchen. I mean, there was a lot of different cooking techniques to sort through, and there are a lot of different pieces of produce that they might not be used to working with. So this book was designed to kind of go back to the bare bones and help walk women through cooking techniques and how to store and take care and how to prep different vegetables and meats and safety and all the kind of things that make it really easy to learn different recipes that they can use throughout their meal prep experiences and learn how to make good food that they enjoy and their families enjoy.
That's awesome. And I think that's kind of the practical stuff that a lot of women are missing. So I really enjoyed this. We could talk forever. Thank you, Cara-Michele, for sharing your expertise with us. We will include additional information and resources, such as your self-care consistency quiz for those readers and listeners to assess their self-care strategy. And I know it takes a few minutes for people to be able to put that all together. So it's a great resource for them to have. And so thank you so much for making that available. Thanks again to my guest, Cara-Michele Nether. And thanks for listening. We hope you'll tune in to another episode of The Positive Pause.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, Claire. I really appreciate it. And I'd love to leave your listeners with a gift or an opportunity to kind of see where are they on their self-care spectrum. We've got a quick, I think it's a 4-minute quiz that they can take called the self-care consistency quiz. That way they'll be able to see where they are on the spectrum, what might be missing for them that's keeping them from having the mental and physical energy that they're looking for, what's making self-care so complicated. And they'll get some immediate feedback on a couple of steps that they can put in place. And of course, I'm happy to hop on a quick call and chat with them also.
Thank you so much. That's going to be a really great resource for everyone. And we'll make sure that we have that included in the notes. So thank you again to my guest, Cara-Michele Nether, for joining us. We appreciate you being here. And thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Positive Pause. Please tune in to next issue of The Positive Pause. Thank you.